everyone, welcome to the Self-Published Strong podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Pearson, and I'm joined today by my husband.
I never think of what to say.
Right.
Hi, it's Nolan. I never think of what to say. It's my own name, so I don't even know why that's weird.
It's okay. Everybody has a little bit of that.
Happy birthday.
Oh yes, it is my birthday today.
Happy Pie Day.
Ugh, I hate pie. Is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Is it a bad thing? I don't know. I don't know that it's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing.
I like cheesecake.
That's not a pie.
Yeah, but it's in the shape of a pie.
Lots of things are in the shape of a pie.
Suckle.
Tire fires are in the shape of a pie.
As our toddler always says,
Suckle.
Suckle. He's obsessed with circles right now, in any other shape, but mostly circles. We are recording this on March 14th. That's my birthday. That's the only reason I know the date today. I've got a splitting headache right now. And didn't have a lot of sleep last night.
No, it was miserable for some reason. I just couldn't sleep either.
Yeah, just didn't sleep. I hate daylight savings and still trying to adjust to that. But we do close on our house on Monday, and today's Wednesday, so that's just, a few days away, and we'll be moving in the following Saturday. And I released Temple of Flames on Monday. I announced to my readers today that it's available, and that's going well so far. It's always exciting to have, get that initial feedback from readers. And do you have any updates?
Nope.
We've been busy getting ready to move, so neither of us have a lot going on right now in the book world. My voice hurts, so dictating is really hard. I wanted to get started on Crimson Hollow, but we've been sick, and my voice is not doing it. Just can't handle dictating, and I still don't type very well with my finger that's been broken. All right, so let's go right into the quote and then the tip. The quote is by Dr. Henry Cloud, and he says, "There is a difference between patience and avoidance. Patience is waiting for a good reason. Avoidance is waiting out of fear." I love that quote. It really hit me hard right now because I've always wanted to write in the romance genre, and the wisdom out there, the best way to do well as an author is to write and release a whole bunch of books really quickly. And my plan was to write 5 books in the same series and then release them all at once. But I kept hesitating, and I couldn't figure out why until I realized that I was hesitating because I was afraid that people wouldn't like my romance books, because I've been writing fantasy long enough to know that my fantasy is good, at least to the target audience that I write for. But with romance, I'd never done romance before, and I didn't have readers who were constantly telling me they loved my books. And so I ended up finally releasing the first 2 books, and I still haven't written the rest of them, but I realized that I was avoiding out of fear, not because I had a plan to release all 5, but because I wouldn't ever continue until I knew if they were good or not. And so releasing those books, I've gotten really good reviews, and I've heard really good things back from readers. And I'm focusing on fantasy right now, but now that I know that I can actually write romance that readers enjoy, I'll actually have a plan, and I'll do it according, be patient rather than avoiding out of fear. So, of course, my plan is to write several more books in the series or in a new series once I'm able to focus on both genres better and release them all at once, and then release regularly after that. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on that quote?
I like it. I don't know. I just learned that I've been avoiding a lot of stuff, and I wasn't patient after all. But
what were you avoiding? Things like marriage and
yeah, for a while.
He was 32 and he was almost 32 and I was almost 29 when we got married. And there's a thunderstorm outside right now. So in case you can't hear that, I love thunderstorms. That'll cheer up my day. Happy birthday to me. I love thunderstorms.
I was going to say, it's not a happy day. I mean, it's just kind of a regular day mostly anyway. But
regular to a Seattle person.
Oh, yes, of course.
To a Utah person, this weather is wonderful. It's almost never cloudy. So, okay, we're still talking about automation sequences, the individual emails in your automation sequence. So the next email is the 4th email, and it sends 7 days later after your 3rd email. The 3rd email, as a reminder, is the one where you invite them to connect with you elsewhere. The 4th email, the purpose of this one is to sell the next book. And I'm talking the next book in your series or the next standalone. So the first book, if you follow the system that I use for building a newsletter list. Your first book will be perma-free, and your second book will be free to newsletter subscribers. This email is where you tell them about the third book in your series. And so you want to tell them about any difficulties or struggles you had in writing it, and give a few positive reader reviews, and include the buy links. And you want to make sure that you don't just say, hey, if you get the chance, or if you feel like it, say, hey, grab this book now. I'm sure you'll love it. Stuff like that. You want to use positive and what's the word? Verbs, basically stuff that moves things. It's not just a writing your book, but it's also in your emails. You want to use the correct words that will make it so that readers know exactly what you want, and you're not giving them excuses for not buying now, basically. Anyway, so you'll continue the introduction to you. Make sure you have a little bit of fun with it, and ask your question at the end. Anyway, so that's the fourth email. Next podcast episode, we'll talk about the fifth email. And I'm actually wondering if we should have the next podcast episode be us talking about some marketing goals right now, and just kind of delve into marketing completely.
Sure.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Nolan does all of my Amazon ads, and so he's gotten pretty good at it, though I don't know how good anyone can really get with the system that's so broken as theirs.
Hey, Amazon, we need to have a talk, yo. Yeah, it's not. It does sell books, but it's not good. Okay.
Yeah. So
Call me.
Call you for a good time, or
Call
just
me for a good time,
or just for you to.
If you like to talk about marketing and how it could be improved, then it would be a good time.
I was gonna say the marketing part. That's good enough for me.
how to make the user interface not as terrible.
Yes.
And the reporting more useful.
Yes.
Those would be good things, because then I would give you more money.
It's true, actually.
I would spend more money if I knew what was going on more, which is everyone's critique of
Amazon.
Amazon is
AMS,
the data you get back is not the most useful.
I agree with that. So the next episode, which is episode number 8, I love the number 8, so that makes me happy. Talking about marketing on episode number 8. Anyway, this is episode number 7. We're going to be talking about The Lost World. And I'm looking forward to digging into this one. Do you have any thoughts about it at the start?
It is vastly inferior to the first movie, and there are some good elements. Mm-hmm. What's his name? The writer guy.
Oh, Michael Crichton.
Was involved heavily with this project in a way that is like, give me my money kind of a way. There's an interview I watched where they ask him, like, what do you think of the movie? And he's like, well, it is what it is. And that's like the literal, his very answer.
It is what it is. And they had to arm twist him. I think we talked about that in
you could tell he was an unwilling partner, but there is some good stuff in here. Anyway, yes. So it'll be an excellent contrast to the triumph of cinema that is the first Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah, so when we went over Twilight, since then I've written down a whole bunch more categories for us to talk about. So we're not going to talk about all of them. Actually, there's several in here that I didn't put anything under just because it either wasn't applicable or it was boring to me. And I, assuming you probably did the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the first one and just kind of go from there. Sound good?
Yeah.
Any characters you want to talk about?
Ian Malcolm is still in it. He is still pretty funny in this one. I think that when they couldn't get everyone for the second movie, and so they had to write them out of it, and then they got him, and he's still good, but he was better in the first movie in the context of the other characters.
Yeah.
The other characters were so much more well-rounded and we realized the characters in the second movie are very flat by comparison.
They're weak.
It makes him... He doesn't pop... Well, he pops more and less, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
His complexity doesn't come out. His insights, he doesn't...
Yeah, he's not the skeptic as he was in the first one. Like, he doesn't have those, that personality type. He's more worried in this one.
Yeah, he's a worrywart. And he's right, but in the first movie, he's instantly thinks it's a bad idea, and the other scientists don't. But it doesn't take them long to figure out that Malcolm was right, and this is insane.
Yeah. And
Hammond was the last one to give up on the idea.
Mm-hmm.
But she really never does, because in the second movie, he's still like, no, it can totally be fine.
It can still work.
As Ian Malcolm says, he's like, I won't make the same mistakes twice. That was Hammond. And then Ian says, no, you're making all new ones.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much the movie.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the characters, I agree with Nolan. The characters, they fall flat. They're, most of them are just plot devices, like the red coats, with the red.
Yeah, they like the red shirts. They just
the ones that can die easily, and we don't care about them.
Yeah, because there's Eddie is like this field, or he's an equipment guy, but that doesn't normally go into the field, and he dies, and no one feels sad.
Mm-hmm. We've got the random kid. You have to have a random kid.
There's a random daughter that you didn't know he had. You have no emotional attachment to. She's just a prop.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones like had personalities in the first movie, which they appear briefly at the very beginning of the movie for maybe a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Say hi to Malcolm and then walk off stage.
Tim and Lex.
Yeah.
They actually had bigger roles and they cut it down.
Hmm.
They were supposed to be in there for longer.
But they're not. So there's a Hammond analog that is very two-dimensional. His nephew, for whatever reason, I don't know why his nephew's in charge of things.
I called him Dude with Glasses.
Dude with Glasses is named Peter Ludlow in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, he is much a flatter character. He's just a stuck-up rich bad guy.
Yeah.
Very cliche. He's not coming from Hammond's good intentions that have gone bad. Like where he has that tension, about creating. I mean, he does have a lot of the same motivations and feelings as Hammond does, but just very flat. Because he talks about, Hammond talked about creating, and so does he. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know what it's like to have to try and build something, from nothing, and how dangerous and how, you risk a lot to do that.
Yeah.
So they do talk about that, but I don't know. All the characters. But Sarah, his girlfriend, who's a paleontologist, of course, because they have to have a paleontologist, but they also had to give him an emotional entanglement with her because he didn't have any connection. Him. I was thinking of the daughter. Glasses? I was thinking of the daughter. No.
Oh, Kelly?
Him being Ian Malcolm.
Okay.
She is Ian Malcolm's girlfriend.
Oh, Sarah.
Sarah.
Yep.
He has to give, that entanglement, that connection, because he doesn't have anything, and they don't bother to develop anything in the movie, like,
Well, they've already been together. They developed it pre.
But he, in the first movie, he develops relationships to the characters that appear. I mean, they've never met before.
Yeah.
And and they come together, and they have interactions with each other, and you see how they play off each other and like learn to know each other and stuff like that. That doesn't happen. They throw that out. He's got a daughter who he already knows. He's got a girlfriend who he already knows. Those are the people he interacts with probably the most in the movie, and so you don't get to see that growth, that interaction.
Yeah, which makes it so that we don't get to know them.
Right, and there's nothing to know. They're just literal plot devices.
Yep.
So.
Well, my favorite character is Roland.
Yes, there's a hunter analog as well. Yes.
Because, I mean, he's competent and he's confident. He's not likable, necessarily, but because he is competent, he's likable. That's why I like him. I'm like, he's the only one there, besides Ian, who is not making stupid decisions and about to get killed all the time. So, what I really liked about him is, at the end of the movie, he achieves his objective, but he's sad because a friend of his didn't make it, So they gave him a little bit of dimension there,
He has an arc.
Yeah, he does. He has a slight arc.
That
was one of my closing questions for you is who had the most character growth? I mean, nobody really has character growth in this movie.
And he's the air quotes villain. He's not even the villain. I mean, Ludlow's technically the bad guy.
He's just the side dude with his own.
Yeah, he's like a minor side character, but he like takes over the movie in the middle.
Well, I appreciated that. I'm like, somebody's got to have direction. Somebody's got to tell people,
He's a driving force wherever he goes and like handles stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like, there's all these analog characters, right? That they feel like counterfeits of the original characters in most cases. Because in the first one, Muldoon, right? I believe his name was the hunter, the competent hunter.
Yeah.
Who ultimately dies, but he's knows what he's doing too.
Yeah.
So they have this guy, and he's probably, I don't know, more as realized. Well, I feel better because he lives, but
yes.
But he's again he's an analog character, but he actually has an arc, so he's more interesting.
Yeah, agreed.
He's probably the most interesting character. I mean, Ian has a bunch of good witty dialogue still, but I don't think he's as interesting because of his interaction with the characters that he's surrounded by is less interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you have any comments on antagonist, protagonist, or anything like that?
We talked a little about it in the characters. I mean, Ludlow is the bad guy, he's coming in to take all the dinosaurs and make a bunch of money. The people with Ian are there to just observe, and Ian just wants to get everybody out alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. And the hunter guy just wants to take out a T-Rex.
I in this one, it feels like the dinosaurs are the setting rather than in the first one where it felt like the dinosaurs were characters.
Yeah, they interact. They don't really interact with them very much at all.
No, it's not like they're introducing them and then we get to know them. They're just there, like...
Yeah, I agree.
So that was my comment on the setting. I mean, the island's a natural habitat for dinosaurs, and they've been allowed to roam and run free there for several years, because that's the little hidden... Basically, the second island is Hammond's little secret.
Right.
Yeah, so my comment was that the dinosaurs are the setting. And I've got so many comments on the continuity. Man, I really had a hard time with the continuity and the research in this movie.
I did as well. Do you want to go to that part?
Do you have any more setting comments?
Setting comments. It's still on an island in the middle of nowhere. Well, Costa Rica. It's a Costa Rican island. So it's isolated. It's jungle. So that's not really different. Trying to think setting wise.
No,
that's pretty much it.
That's it. Yeah.
They do go to San Diego, and the dinosaurs, the T-Rex, tromps around there.
Yeah.
Parts of that are funny and interesting, but it's not as skillfully done.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get to the climax and everything.
It's like a flat action movie compared to the first one where it was more suspense. This is more crunchy.
Well, the first one just felt like it had more plots that were weaving together, because the characters were more well-rounded and they weren't two-dimensional as they are in this one. And like the dinosaurs coming and going, and just felt like there was more to keep your interest, This one, I get bored every time they go to San Diego,
There's a lot of pacing problems too in this movie. That's not setting related, but the settings, I mean, they just had the one setting in the first movie, and then this one they have two, but it's more boring. I don't know.
So, continuity, I want to talk about continuity at the same time that we talk about the implausible things,
okay.
If that's all right with you.
Yeah.
Plot versus character, I would say it's mostly, it's both, but it's mostly character-driven, I would say, because most everything that happens because of stupid choices the characters made. Yes,
that is true. Which is good.
Well, I have a comment. Right. That's going to be one of my parting three things.
Well, I would say it's not good because if everybody just makes stupid decisions all the time, then, it's boring and it's not interesting. Like, how stupid is everybody really? Mm-hmm. It's nice when people have conflicting goals, and that's what creates the problems.
Yeah, which they had conflicting goals in this one.
They certainly,
yes. But they weren't fleshed out conflicting goals. They were just... Well, we already know Michael Crichton didn't want to write the book, and so... He did it just because they wanted him to do it, and his heart wasn't in it. And honestly, from reading the trivia, Spielberg's heart wasn't in it either. I mean, I'll give that little bit of trivia now. He said that he grew increasingly disenchanted with the film the farther along it went, and so farther along filming went, and you can kind of feel that. It's like it runs
out of steam. It starts out okay.
Yeah.
But I think it really loses its dynamicism.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so dialogue. I didn't really notice that the dialogue was abnormal or unnatural. I mean, we've got all the little funny things that Ian says. That, well, my comment: you adding comedy in, you can make comedy up by the setting and the surroundings from the characters, or you can put it in artificially, like when they first get to the island and Nick is yelling, "Sarah, Sarah," and then he's like, "Sarah Harding," and Ian's like, "How many Sarahs are on the island?" And then at the end, when they're looking for Nick, and they're yelling, "Nick, Nick," and Ian yells, "Nick Van Owen." I appreciated that. And like I said, most of the comedy comes from Ian. Like when the velociraptors are jumping at him at the car and he locks the door,
Yeah, with his foot, yeah.
Yeah. Just little funny things like that. And I think that comedy belongs in pretty much any book, I mean... Even I'm listening to, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty intense scene. Like, this velociraptor is, like, breaking through the glass of this car, and he's, like, doing funny stuff still.
I'm listening to...
It doesn't feel incongruous.
the book Unbroken right now, and it's really, really good. It's a biography about Louis something. I'm not an audio person. I need to actually see his name to know what. But he's World War II, and there's comedy in that, and that's a World War II biography that has a lot of serious moments. And I've read a lot of horror that has comedy and chick flicks that have comedy. So I think comedy, I think it adds depth to a story, and so. It's hard to know how to add the comedy in, though, because it's not something that always comes naturally, because the story is not something that comes naturally. You usually have to work at it to make the story work, and so sometimes you have to make it work at the comedy to make it work, too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay, so turning the page, I don't have any comments on plot structure or target audience or marketing of the film.
Okay.
Do you have any more comments?
I have some lines that I like. Right. So, like, very early in the movie, Ian says, it's not a research operation anymore, it's a rescue mission. Yeah. That's his entire motivation through this entire movie. Mm-hmm. Everything he does, everything he tries to do is to get them moving in a direction off the island.
Yeah.
Once he goes there to get Sarah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, he still has good dialogue. Things like, it's so important to your future that you don't finish that sentence.
Yes, Kelly.
To his daughter, which I feel like I say that to my kids all the time.
So, okay, I'm going to make a comment on... You have a few comments I'm seeing on things, but...
Plot structure.
Yeah, go ahead, because mine is on number 9.
So it's basically 3 acts. So there's the part where they're by themselves mostly on the island.
Before they meet the InGen people.
Before they meet the InGen people.
Mm-hmm.
When they start interacting with the InGen people, to the point where they capture the T-Rex is another act, and then the third act is San Diego.
Yeah, that is actually quite...
straightforward.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the lines are well drawn.
Yeah, like in one they like the set of characters, and then they combine the 2 sets of characters, and then they change locations.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my plot structure. I mean, the general breakdown of how this goes, and it's roughly thirds too of the way. Oh, the last act is a bit shorter because it's just more explodey.
Yeah, I've got some comments on. I mean, we know that the target audience is the same as the first, but the tone, the soundtrack, camera angles, things like that. One thing I noticed was that they're pretty much just repeating everything they did in the first movie. So we've got a T-Rex. We've got the rain at night. T-Rex's eyes through windows. That happened a lot of times in this one.
It certainly did.
The car top gets broken. The sounds of the dinosaur approaching. Dinosaur footsteps in water.
Yes.
Then, yeah, I mean, lots of things. I'm like, get a little original.
Yeah, for marketing for this film, I put gimmicky toys. And I remember when this movie came out, and like you could buy the Jeep with the little seat that slides out to the side. Like when they're capturing the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this is if you've ever seen Spaceballs.
Mm-mm.
And they have...
Probably have long time
Spaceballs, and they have the marketing campaign, their marketing thing. They have a bunch of merch. They have, like, Spaceballs the flamethrower. Mm-hmm. And stuff. But they just have a bunch of, like, random merchandise for people to buy. And like, oh, you like the movie? Then buy this, buy that. And then they just have, like, some ridiculous stuff. That's what this is. This is a purely financial decision because the first movie was so successful they had to turn around and capitalize on it without...
I have to say that I agree with that, the first one and the second one and the third one possibly, but I would say Jurassic World, it was more of a love for the project that they...
the third one is actually an okay movie.
It has one of my favorite scenes, the pterodactyl scene. Like, they had some really awesome scenes in that movie.
Yeah, I think it was probably less commercially successful, but I think it's a better constructed story.
Yeah.
And then we will talk about the very different tone of Jurassic World when we get to it.
Yeah.
It's a complete break from everything, really. Still like it, but it's an action movie, not...
I mean, it's a new director. I mean, so is the third one.
But like, different music, different everything. They don't really use the themes much.
So, okay, so there were a couple of things, hold on. Okay, you had a comment on when they're running from the velociraptors.
Oh, that was
not the grass scene, but after the gymnastics scene. That was where I put my comment on.
You mean when they run to the helicopter?
And it was one...
They do one good shot of them running up the stairs, like through a building. It's all one shot.
And they don't take away, so you know the camera is actually following.
Yeah, they don't cut. It's a good shot.
Yeah, I liked it. And I liked it for the reason, because you can't tell if the velociraptors are following them or not. So you feel like you're running from the velociraptors too.
Exactly, like it's like a point of view, like you're right behind them, trying to get to safety because like somebody's signaling for them to come, and then they're just making a run for it.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that. I'm not sure how you can apply that to writing, but
it was. I mean, it was. They used a good tool at a good time to portray. What they wanted to. They weren't lazy about it like the rest. Can you tell we didn't like this movie?
I mean, I enjoy it because I like pretty much any of these dinosaur movies, but I still get bored at times while watching it, or just very exasperated.
They had some good stuff, but they misapplied or it went on too long. So like let's talk about the truck scene, for instance.
Oh yes, the truck scene.
So like there's a truck and it's going over the cliff with the trailer. Trailer's dangling. That scene goes on for twice as long as it should.
Yeah, and under pacing, I say trailer and then getting ridiculous.
Yeah, I like parts of it. I like they try to climb up and then like one of them falls.
Falling on the glass and is pretty cool.
Yeah, the glass slowly cracking. That was awesome. And I was like, yeah, this is a good scene. And then they try to climb up a rope and then they fall down and then they climb up some more and then the rope breaks or it comes untied or whatever.
Yeah.
And then eventually the whole trailer falls down around them and doesn't touch them somehow. And it was just like way ridiculous.
Yeah. And my comment about that was why did the T-Rexes leave? They tried pushing them over and then they leave. I mean they get the baby, they leave. And then they come back and try to push it over and then they leave. And then they come back again. And I'm like, that's not.
Yeah, it's super weird.
It was convenient for the plot.
It was because it's like, oh no, now we have to struggle with the car again. Okay, we're fine with the car. Oh, and then the T-Rexes do something else.
Yep.
Just as soon as they resolve their problem.
Yep, exactly.
And then oh no, now we have to deal with that, and then
yeah, and I'm not getting mad at Michael Crichton because I'm on his side.
He took the money, man. He took the money.
Yes. All right, so.
But this goes on for any book series or TV series that goes on for too long, and you're just in it for the money now. You don't know where else to go with this.
Yeah.
We've all seen or watched things like that where like the first couple seasons are really good, and then eventually. Not so good, or just filler, or
One thing that I noticed about this movie when it comes to conflicts, not all the conflicts are caused by dinosaurs, and I felt like it. One of the other trivia things is it's supposed to be 50%. It has 50% more dinosaur action, but it's not a satisfying type of dinosaur action. It doesn't feel like it. Yeah, it doesn't. But you see, they start sooner fighting with dinosaurs and interacting with dinosaurs, but it doesn't feel as satisfying. And so
they don't have any build up to it.
No, they don't. Let's see, do you have any comments on romance?
There is none. I mean, Sarah and Malcolm, they just talk about it, but they never do anything. There's no like any chemistry. Mm-hmm. Like they say baby occasionally, and that's pretty much it. There's no like real affection, no body language, no language, no expressions.
So my comment on it is, yes, I agree with that. It's not applicable. There's no kissing or anything like that. But he does go to the island, and he faces his greatest fear for her, which is true romance, in my opinion. But then when he's with her, it's like they're an old married couple that are, like kind of old hat. They don't show. It almost feels like the characters themselves don't really care for each other, and then the writers forgot, to make them.
Yeah. I mean, they have some talks about, like, why didn't you come save me from that dinner? And like, you came and saved me from an island, and nobody asked you to do that, and I asked you to save me from...
dinner with your dad, or
and
whatever.
Then you didn't show up.
Yeah.
And, like, that was at least something.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably the only example I can think of.
You can tell that they have, like relationship problems, They're not quite solid in their relationship.
And she seems to be fine with that because she's like, I go away all the time. Isn't that the perfect girlfriend? And it's just like, yeah, but it also makes a bad movie because then we're not interested in your relationship. So. So
what would you say is the inciting incident? I think it's when he learns that she's on the island.
Yeah, I mean that's what gets this whole thing started, and that happens pretty early on. That's the second scene in the movie. The first scene is just Malcolm apparently is down on his luck because he broke some legal agreement with Hammond about talking about the island. Nobody believes the dinosaurs are real.
Yeah, that's actually like the second scene. The first scene we haven't even talked about yet.
What's that?
Cute little girl, cute little dinosaurs.
Oh yes, I forgot all about that.
And my comment with the parents, believableness of the parents, what would you do if your 8-year-old girl's screaming and you can't see her? Would you stand there and stare?
I wouldn't stand there and stare and then be like, hey.
What's going on? I mean, I want to slap those parents.
And then be surrounded by people whose literal job it is to make sure you don't die. All the crew members of the yacht they were on also stand around. I'm like, I don't need someone to tell me to go run.
No, I know. If my daughter were screaming like that...
Or even if somebody else's daughter that you know...
That's true.
It's not even like there's some randos.
You don't even need to know them, you know?
But they literally know these people. And like a little 7-year-old...
8-year-old or 9-year-old...
girl is like screaming her head off. And,
on an unknown place, you know?
Yeah. And they're just like... Huh?
Yeah.
Mouth open.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the...
Crappy parents.
Crappy parents. I did like the opening. I thought it worked well.
I think it's fine, too. Actually, and the concept of it is fine. Because you don't expect there to be dinosaurs. Like, we're done with that, right?
Yeah, yep.
And they're just on some other random beach, and then a dinosaur we've never seen before, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're in the first one, are they?
Mm-hmm. The compies?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think they're mentioned, but I don't remember them being
in the book. They're in the book, but they're
yeah.
not in the movie.
All right, so I've got a section titled Noteworthy. I don't think I gave you that section. And I've also got a section titled Implausible. So, noteworthy, they kill the dog.
They kill the dog.
In San Diego.
Oh, yeah, they eat the dog.
Yeah,
the dog gets eaten by the T-Rex.
Yeah. Implausibility, I say the T-Rex not finishing the job when they take the baby, not pushing the trailer all over. It's like wheat pushes, and then runs off. And then, of course, we've got the Hollywood explosion at the bottom of the cliff.
Of course.
When there's probably nothing in these things that's flammable.
Yeah, the trailer and the truck fall over, and then boom, Hollywood explosion while they're all dangling from a rope or something like that.
Yep.
Of course. And it's not a particularly good shot either.
Mm-hmm.
Other implausibilities. T-Rex killing everyone on a ship.
Oh, jeez.
When he's trapped in the hold.
Yeah.
How can you kill people on the bridge? Plus the bridge is tiny. Unless you smush it, how did you get inside without breaking all the doors and windows? Mm-hmm. This is stupid. This is so bad. Oh my gosh. And then there's a severed hand holding onto the wheel.
Where's my comment? I'm trying to find where my comment is on that. Where, because there's absolutely no way that the hand, I mean, maybe the hand crawled in there, you know?
The hand had to crawl, the severed hand crawled and then held to the wheel, which is also a crib from the first movie.
A crib from the first movie?
They stole it from the first movie.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Well, remember Mr. Arnold's hand?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good point. Thank you.
And I was like, yes, a severed arm. We haven't seen this before. And there's 2 severed arms. One of them is holding the button to the hold.
Yeah, and the other one's holding onto the actual...
The wheel.
The wheel, yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I've actually made a note on that, but just the fact that we've got...
The T-Rex is inside. They're outside. One of them in a tiny room. The other one on the deck. And he's trapped inside.
Well, maybe the T-Rex put his little arm in there.
Yeah, maybe that's
did some fine surgeon murderings.
Anyway, it's just really bad. It's so stupid. I thought that the first time I saw it, I was like, what on earth? How did you even get in there?
It would have been so easy for them to have another dinosaur, a little smaller one that the T-Rex eats.
At first I thought, I was like, wait, is the baby T-Rex on that boat too? But
the
no,
baby has
make
a broken leg.
They make a point of telling you that the baby T-Rex is not on the boat.
Yes.
Because the baby T-Rex totally could have done that if it had been on the boat and gotten loose.
Yeah.
They could have done some team up and then, that would have been fine, but they purposefully shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Way to go.
No kidding. Do you have any comments on foreshadowing?
There is plenty of foreshadowing. The first scene at the beginning with the little baby dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. They're not babies. They're
compies.
Yeah. Compies. Somebody gets killed by them later.
Yeah, which that gets foreshadowed twice because he electrocutes them.
Yeah, and he's mean to them, and then they come back and kill him.
And my comment on that was it's too on the nose.
Yeah, it was. I agree. The foreshadowing they do in this movie is not subtle.
No, it's not.
They do a lot of it, but it's
the T-Rex coming through the trees. Like I liked that.
That was a good shot. So there is a shot where they're
explain what it is.
They're up in like a tower thingy, and then they hear the T-Rex coming. You can see the trees swishing back and forth where it's coming, and
they watch it go underneath them and go. Yeah, it's
exactly.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes,
that scene just makes me so glad that Kelly's up there because I would be up there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be anywhere but in that thing. And then in that same scene where they're talking about the academic and the parents coming back for the baby and then it's not purely academic, and then Ian's like, hold on, this is going to be bad.
Right.
And then immediately, so the foreshadowing is immediate,
Yeah.
They resolve that really quickly when the dinosaurs strike, and I actually like that, And then we also get the same situation with the T-Rex running through the trees in San Diego, where the helicopter is following the T-Rex with a spotlight, and when they're on the boat and they're putting the baby T-Rex on the boat to bribe it, you can see the spotlight behind what's his name? Ludlow. And so we know that the T-Rex is coming. I'm motioning. Uh-huh. Yes. We know the T-Rex is coming closer because of the spotlight from the helicopter, but we can't actually see the T-Rex,
Yeah, that's good.
I do enjoy those kinds of things. So do you have any comments on show and tell?
There's a really bad, what's his face? The guy, the cool guy.
Roland?
Yeah, Roland has the worst opening dialogue scene thing.
Does he? I didn't even notice.
He goes on a whole expositional rant.
Yes.
Right. About why he's there, what his fee is, like all the stuff that is just absolutely
all
absurd.
I want is a chance to get a bull T-Rex and
a buck. Yeah.
A buck. Yeah.
Yes. And like that's what I came here for, and that's what I'm gonna blah 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 blah. And like you just do this and blah 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 blah. And it's like freaking 3 paragraphs. It's ridiculous.
Yes, tons of exposition. Like we don't. Whatever.
It's complete exposition. Like he word vomits his entire character, like onto your ears, into your ears. Yeah, the rest of it is great. Like he is, like we've said, the most dynamic character in the movie, despite his only being in there for like the least amount of any character, pretty much. But yeah, that's the part that bothered me the most. Is just he has some ridiculous Han Solo like dialogue.
Poor Han Solo.
Poor Han Solo.
Let's see. Okay, one bit of show and tell that I did like was when, and back to the trailer with the baby dinosaur in there, when the parents are, they're looking in the windows, and we've got Sarah and Nick in there. They have no idea, and Ian, they don't know what's going on, but we know that the parents are looking for the baby. And so they show the parents looking for the baby, and then the character says, oh, they're looking for the baby, I appreciated that. They didn't start out by having the character say, they're going to look for the baby,
Yeah. Oh, the best foreshadowing. So Roland does get his buck. He doesn't kill it. He shoots it with a tranquilizer dart, and they capture it. And then Ludlow comes over and he's like, good job. I want you to come work for me. Blah blah blah. And he's like, I've spent enough time in the company of death.
Oh, yeah.
And then he walks away.
Yeah, and Roland actually lives, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But Ludlow doesn't.
Ludlow doesn't.
And he's like, because he literally says, I've spent enough time in the company of death, and then
leaves
walks
Ludlow
away from that guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. I didn't notice that.
And then he walks out of the movie and out of our lives. So sad.
Okay, you've got, what are your comments on research?
Epiphyseal plates are at the end of your bones.
Explain
okay,
this.
So at one point they x-ray the baby T-Rex's leg to see that it's broken, and they show a picture of the middle of a bone. I'm pretty sure that epiphyseal plates, that's where your bones grow from. They grow at the ends of the bones, not in the middle of the bones.
I don't remember from anatomy.
Think about your
it's where the bone generates from, right? I do remember that. Yes.
So it's just it's not like way at the very end, but it's like like you have a knobby part on the end of a bone, like your elbow or something like that. It's just below that.
Yeah.
It's like a collar around that. Anyway, and they're showing like the middle, like its ankle or something like that.
That's right.
Not way down at the bottom, but like somewhere in the middle. And on the screen, it's like the middle, and she's like pointing to the middle of the screen. I was just like, no. I don't know.
All right, so I'm going to give some little bits of trivia, and then I'm going to go to research. So the Japanese, when they're running away from the T-Rex, are saying in Japanese, I left Japan to get away from this. I love that.
Nice shout out to Godzilla there.
Yes. And then, like I was saying, Spielberg grew increasingly disenchanted with the film, and he actually realized that he wouldn't be directing another Jurassic Park movie, and he wanted to direct one where the dinosaurs went to a big city, and so he threw it in.
Conceptually, I'm fine with that, but it just has a very different...
It should have been its own story.
It has a different tone than the rest of the movie. It feels very incongruous.
I agree. Anyway, and then also, as part of the release of the film, they asked theaters to install strobe lights for certain parts of the film where lights would flash, and then the strobe lights inside of the audience would flash. Well, they never put parts in the movie where the lights would flash, and so right before they released, they went in during a thunderstorm and added light flashing. So, bad planning.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about the research. I'm going to give my little gripe on the research. I actually have quite a few gripes on it.
The epiphyseal plate's the only one that I really have. So.
Mine is, so I'm going to talk about Sarah's character quite a bit here.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Sarah's character, so she's at the beginning of the movie, she goes up and she touches the baby dinosaur. And, which doesn't bother me. If we don't know her character at that point, that's fine. Some characters would do that. But then she actually says later on, we're here to observe and watch, not interact.
Yeah, she goes on and on about that. Like, make sure you pick up all your trash and do all this other stuff. And
she's like, don't bend a blade of grass. And she goes on and on and on and on, preaches about not influencing them in any way. But touching a baby from an animal, a wild animal, is influencing.
And then she runs around with a baby T-Rex.
Yes, that's all over my notes. Yeah, she's got blood on the baby T-Rex's jacket.
And on the T-Rex's jacket?
On her jacket, yes, on the T-Rex's jacket. And she's a paleontologist who works with large animals in Africa, and that's why they picked her to go to the islands, because she has experience with live animals, not just, the dead ones. And so it's crazy. It's stupid. They actually draw attention to the blood on her jacket. Like, are you injured? And she goes, oh, no, that's from the baby T-Rex. And so, it draws attention to it. And she, as the expert, would know. And so would he as the hunter.
Roland knows. That's why he was fine with it. He actually she calls him on it later.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Does she? I totally
That's why he brings it up. Because he's like, oh, they're going to be tracking that. That's why he doesn't ask her to take it off.
Oh, yeah. I totally missed that. I really appreciate that. Okay, I like Roland's character. Her character, she's an idiot. No offense to her or anything like that. But
you can offend her. Your badly written character.
So she's got blood on the jacket. She touches the baby dinosaur. She takes the dinosaur to their camp, to heal the baby dinosaur. Leave the baby. I'm sorry, this is horrible. But when you're dealing with animals this big and this dangerous, leave the baby dinosaur with a broken leg, even if it does die. I mean,
that's the circle of life.
That is a horrible thing for me to say, but anyway, somebody who's experienced,
The Lion King taught me that.
Yes, and then leaving food out in the tent, It's like she's never been camping before, and she doesn't know that leaving food out is a bad idea. Even if it's not just a T-Rex, there's other animals living there, And then, of course, the Velociraptor size. They got them a little bit better, but they're still a little bit too big. But did you notice that they were actually smaller in this movie?
Yeah, they are a little bit smaller.
Okay, I've got comments on the climax. Do you have any comments on the climax?
No.
My comment is there's a lot of running, and there's hardly any dinosaur action. Just the dinosaur running around, them running around, the dinosaurs chewing things, but it's not exciting. There's no fighting. There's no. It's not exciting to me.
No, yeah, they're. What did they do in the first movie? I mean,
the first movie they had the Velociraptors fighting and the T-Rex fighting, and then them trying to escape them while they're all fighting around them and them falling from the ceiling and lots of action going on.
Yep. Hey, somebody swings from the ceiling. Kills a velociraptor.
That's right. Kelly kills a velociraptor with her mad gymnastic skills. That was skills with a Z.
Yeah, so plausible.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
It's not plausible.
It's not plausible.
Please stop it.
Yes. Do you have any more comments before we go into the top 3 biggest takeaways?
Everyone has incredible upper body strength in this movie.
Oh,
if you've ever held onto a tiny rope or done pull-ups, you can't hold on for more than a few seconds unless you train to. I don't know what you think these people are going to be doing hanging from stuff so much.
It's true.
Stop that too. Stop it, Hollywood. You can't hold on that long. That bothered me because I was just like, how long? Like,
how long are they going to
just hang and they just hold on, and it's not. They do a lot of hanging from this movie I feel like, and especially in that horrible trailer scene. That's half good. Like I said, it's like conceptually no problem. That's good. But it's too much. They took the action scenes and extended them without having better content.
Or reasons to extend them. The scenes don't push the story forward.
No, there's no reason. Like, the rope comes untied. Something doesn't untie the rope. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
If, like, some little compies chew through the rope. I don't know. Something. But it's just, and then they climb, and then something else happens to them. That's, like, random.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no. Anyway, that bothered me. So, one of the other scenes that we liked a lot was the long grass part. And that's where the velociraptors really come into the movie. We don't see them very much at all. We don't learn much. Like in the first one, you get little snippets here and there, but you learn something about them every time. Mm-hmm. In this, we already know they're dangerous, so you can't really do that. But everybody's running away from the T-Rex, and they run into this long grass.
Yeah.
And Roland's sidekick tells people not to run into the long grass, but they do because you have to run away from the T-Rex. So what are you going to do?
I would hide. I mean, T-Rex doesn't have good vision, you know?
Yeah, and there's a really good shot, a top-down shot, where you see people running into the long grass and then the raptor tails coming towards them. And they can't see them, but we can. And that's excellent.
My question for you is it plausible that our heroes run through the Velociraptor field and none of them get attacked?
No, because like everyone else gets like chewed to death and then they don't.
Well, my question is...
But maybe they're busy.
Maybe the Velociraptors got enough.
Yeah, but they're still hunting them later. I mean, they're still on...
That's true. They're still... And we don't know how many Velociraptors there are either.
Yeah.
There could be quite a few, and...
It just seemed a bit lucky to me, but whatever. Yeah. I let it slide, but I was like, really? Not even one Velociraptor?
All right, what are your top 3 biggest takeaways?
Top 3
for authors.
For authors. Here we go. We haven't been doing this. We should have been doing this the whole time. Sorry, guys. Number 1, don't let the action get away from you. That's what happened in this one. They put in more action, but it feels like less action because it's less meaningful.
Yeah.
They just had action in there, and sometimes action for action's sake's fine. But in a movie, you have to have a lot of economy. You need to do multiple things in one scene, and if you can do that when you write, so much better.
Well, if you can't do it when you write, go back and add it in later.
Yeah, they don't do that in this. They feel very separate. Like, here is an action scene, and here is a talking scene. You know, they don't blend seamlessly together like they did in the first one.
No, I agree.
Okay, my next top one, characterization. Make interesting characters, not these ones. These ones are not interesting.
How do you make interesting characters, though?
Multi-dimensional. I mean, they're very flat. They have like one personality. Ludlow's the rich guy, period. There's nothing like sympathetic about him. He doesn't have any hobbies or interests other than even if their backstories, create backstories for them, even if they don't end up in the story, you know? Right, because they'll behave in a way that feels like they have one, even if people don't know what it is.
Yep. Roland actually kind of feels like he has a slight bit of a backstory.
Yeah, you don't know where he comes from, but you know that where he's going, I guess, because he has an arc. He's like, I do this, and I'm a big tough guy, and then at the end he's like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And that's why he's the most interesting character, because he actually had an arc. Nobody else does. Not even our principal people that are in like the very beginning through the end. He's like a random guy. Like, why does the second tier character get an arc and the main characters don't?
And then, what's your third takeaway?
Let's think. I'll have to think about that one.
All right, I'll give mine. Okay, so my first takeaway is the characters, and it's about characters. Characters must be competent. So the story is implausible unless you have several competent characters. You can have incompetent ones, but everyone was incompetent in this movie. Ian and Roland were the exceptions, because Ian has experience and Roland is just, he knows. And then the guy with the long red hair,
Oh, yes.
He seemed fairly competent. But there's a fine line between plot and character-driven. So character-driven, you can have them make good or make stupid choices, but those choices can be good based on the knowledge they have. And so we as the viewers or the readers, we could be like, oh, that was a horrible decision because we have knowledge that the characters don't have.
The tall grass scene or the long grass scene is a good example of that. They made the best. They're like running away from a T-Rex. That's the way to run away from a T-Rex. It's the best thing they could do at the time. Somebody else had more information, and we did because we could see the raptor tails coming for them.
That was so cool. The trails.
That's what makes it so. Because you're like, the guy's warning them not to go into the tall grass, but you're like, why? You have to get away from the T-Rex. This is the only like. There's not that many options, And
then we see the velociraptors coming through the grass towards the line of people. Yeah, so you can have them make bad choices, but they need to be the best possible given the situation. And so we've got so many bad choices in this movie that are just incompetent, stupid choices, not choices that make us like the characters more. Then do your research. So if you need to have your characters follow through on their knowledge, And then my second comment is make your sequels stand on their own. So they need to be... Even if you're writing sequels that go in order and you can't read them out of order, or standalone sequels, you don't repeat the same things that got people going from the first time. Then number 3, my third one is skip the unimportant stuff. And I did not make that comment earlier because I wanted to actually talk about it right now. We've got back to the trailer scene. We've got the guy who decides to help them. He throws them the rope and then the trailer starts falling and he looks up like, oh, crap. And the very, very next shot, he's outside looking at the trailer. We don't have to watch him running through the trailer and watching him try to get out of the trailer because it's not important. And so skip the stuff that's not important. If nothing happens, then don't readers actually will put 2 and 2 together a lot easier than authors give them credit for, you know? Mm-hmm. So your phone rings across the room. You don't have to have your character get up off the couch, step across the room, and pick up the phone. You can just have your reader say, I picked up the phone, or she answered the phone. You know, the readers will fill in the blanks.
Okay, here's my third one. Be interested in what you're doing. Because the writer and director weren't that interested, and you can tell.
Yes.
So if you're not having fun, if you're not feeling tense, if you're not excited about the idea even of the scene you're going to do, then don't do it or think about how to make it better, because that's, they just went through the motions, and I guess they know better than we do because they're making like a 5th movie now, so whatever. But
they aren't, though.
They're not. That's true.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, I mean, viewers can tell, readers can tell. If you lose excitement for a project, you've got to do something that makes you excited for it again, and that's going to be something that's very personal. It's not something we can tell you what to do. Whatever it is that you need to regain excitement for the project. One thing I have found, though, the longer it takes me to write a book, the less excited I am about it. And so if I write it faster and do it more often each day, more of it, then I maintain excitement for the project.
We have talked about creating momentum. So
yes, we have.
Part of that.
Exactly. Anyway, so that's, I did have a question for you, though.
Okay.
How would you rather die? Compy, Velociraptor, or T-Rex?
T-Rex. I think it's the fastest one.
I agree. That was my answer too.
Compies take small bites.
And Velociraptors play
with
their
food. Yeah. T-Rex don't care.
No. I agree. Anyway, so the next episode will be we'll delve into marketing, and then what movie are we doing next? Should we do Megamind next?
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, let's do Megamind. We haven't done a kids movie yet. And it's a kids movie that's geared to adults.
Yes.
All right,
Just like the Lego movie.
Yes. Okay, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.